Welcome to the Broadside Podcast.
With host, my dad, Andy Elliott.
All right, well, welcome back to the Broadside Podcast. I am Andy Elliott, and on this episode, I'm joined by Jake Jensen. Jake is a hunter, angler, dad, husband, strength coach. He works with the Seattle Kraken as a strength and conditioning coach. He's also a sportsman's strength coach. He can be found on Instagram at sportsman_SC. We dive into a lot of stuff to do with health and fitness. It's a pretty important thing to have when you're going into the woods hunting. We go into the lifestyle, diet, habits. What's kind of some bullshit stuff that people think works, some stuff that does work that you might not know. Supplements, tips for the full-on gym, or maybe some things you can just do at your house with body weight or limited gear. It's a great conversation. It's something I'm pretty passionate about these days, is my health and fitness. And so thanks for listening. And, go ahead and check me out on Instagram, Elliott Outdoors. Go subscribe to my YouTube. Go check out Jake's Instagram. Any liking, sharing, that can help. So I appreciate you guys listening, and have a good day.
Great.
Okay. If you just want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody.
Great. Yeah. No, thanks for having me on your podcast. My name's Jake Jensen. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. Family man, hunterman, fisherman, outdoorsman. I work professionally as a strength and conditioning coach for the Seattle Kraken. I've worked in college football, different high school programs, professional sports, all over the world, Germany, here in the U.S., mostly with hockey. And being back in the U.S. now, here in Washington State, we're trying to kind of blend both lifestyles. Both tend to kind of eat up a lot of time. So my wife and I live here in Washington with our 3 boys.
So have you pretty much been into hunting your whole life? Is that something you kind of grew up doing then?
Yeah. So growing up, my dad's family, they were like your standard subsistence hunter type dudes, right? Just blue collar guys who would go out every October and everybody would get a deer. There was really no, I wouldn't say there was much of like a trophy focus for that crew of guys. It was more of just like a shoot it and turn it into burger. And then that was what ended up on the table. And so those were kind of the hunting mentors that I had, right? Like hunting camp was a bunch of tent trailers. Everybody would get up. Once somebody shot a deer, they were kind of on to help out with everyone else's deer. We didn't do much other than deer. Like growing up, we had horses. So I wouldn't say it was like a farm. It was just like a hobby farm. So we did a lot of like horsebacking hunting, wall tents. And I think a lot of those trips were more, for my dad, they were more like getting out on the horses than like actually trying to kill monster deer. So that was kind of the experience, right? There was always fly fishing involved. And the experience was more around just being outside rather than trying to kill trophy. And then once I kind of got into college, it was just like a lot of work, right? With school and trying to build a career. And in the strength and conditioning industry, it tends to be all or nothing game. So I didn't have a ton of time for like hunting and fishing. And then moving to Germany, it was like totally off the table. Like the rules there are quite a bit different. So pretty restrictive to be able to get outside. And that's when my oldest, when we lived in Germany, was like 6. We were there he was probably 5 or 6 until 10 years old. And it was like apparent that it was just never going to be his sort of inheritance to experience hunting if we stayed there. Just because of the barriers, right? Like the things we take for granted, like just being able to go for a walk in the mountains and not have it be somebody's field.
Yeah.
Or go fishing on a lake and not have it be somebody's backyard. It was like very apparent living there. And so coming back here, Washington State's been a great like revelation after that. Just all of the opportunity is here, right? At least for now, anyways. And that's kind of how I've kind of come about to being here now and how we participate in being outside.
Yeah, so is Germany, is that mostly just all private land? Like there's not a lot of like wilderness areas type of things that we kind of have here.
Yeah, it's Europe is weird, especially Germany, because there's a lot more green space than you would think. Especially, I lived in Berlin, and Berlin is like a state within a state. It would be like, it would be like if Utah was a state, and then all of those Western states around it were one state. And so
Oh,
it's just
okay.
surrounded by, another municipality. And that state that's around Berlin um, is mostly green. Like there really aren't any big cities. And so it borders up against Poland. And so a lot of times we would be out there. It's about a 40-minute drive from where we lived, and tons of green space and like tons of wildlife. So it's not what you would think, right? Thinking about Europe and Germany. Um, so there's tons of opportunity to hunt and fish, in terms of space and animals, but the rules make it like virtually impossible to hunt there. You almost have to, it's a college degree, is what it is. It's a 4-year program. And then when you get done, you have like a state accreditation to like execute that work. And it's a legal liability. So once you like sign up for a hunting lease somewhere, if something happens on that lease, like say a car runs into a deer, like you're legally liable for that. Like that's your fault.
Oh shit.
And like if there's a farmer that's on that lease and there's pigs eating up his crops, like that's your financial obligation to make that right. And so it's less of a hobby thing you do for fun and more of like a job.
Gotcha.
And so it's just different. Like, and there's some interesting laws. Like you can hike anywhere you want to hike, even if it's private land. So like if I want to
Hmm.
go walking across some guy's field, totally legal. There's nothing he can do about it, but I
What?
can't stay overnight.
Oh, that's
It's
weird.
like it's very, very bizarre. And yeah, it's crazy. I did the first year or so of the hunting course, and it's all in German. It's not offered in English like at all. It's very expensive. So I did like the free part. And then when it came time to start paying all this money, I was like, yeah, this isn't gonna work out. Um, yeah, and it's very restrictive, and we did quite a bit of fishing because there's some like loopholes you can exploit as a foreigner if you have a fishing license in another country. But like I say, it's people's backyards. Like I got cussed out by German grandmas for like fishing this lake. And it's the middle of nowhere. There's nobody around, but people own all of the land around the lake. So, it's just different. It's tough.
Yeah, I've heard more and more of that kind of stories about other countries. I've never been to like Germany, or I've been to Ireland. It's pretty much the only place in Europe I've been. Um it's different even, there with their public spaces and their parks and stuff like that. But I think the more I learn about that stuff, like I think a lot of people take for granted what we have here, hunting wise and public land wise and our opportunities. But
It's true.
so hunting pretty much grew up in that. What about what got you into the fitness side of things?
Yeah, like obviously, like a lot of people, just played high school sports. Growing up, that was between being outside and playing sports. That was like my whole life, right? Like a lot of people. And my problem with sports is that I just wasn't very good at sports. Well, I love training, I love the whole thing, but I just sucked at playing sports. Not gifted with the natural ability that some guys have in football or baseball. And once high school was over, I just wasn't ready to give it up. I still wanted to be like in the team and be part of that world. And it was just obvious. Like, I feel like everybody gets to this point at some point. For me, it came like really early on where you're like, this isn't going to work out. Like, I'm not good enough to make these teams anymore. And so strength and conditioning was a way that I could stay in teams and sort of chase a passion. It's not like it's really not a great career field, and it's hard to say that, but that's just the facts. Like, there's probably 10 people that make a lot of money, and that's it. So,
Yeah.
little known fact: college football by far the highest paid strength coaches, and
Really?
on that staff, yeah, by far they make way more than NFL strength coaches do.
Hmm.
Um, And those guys on that staff, you have the head strength coach, who's more of a football coach and spends depends on the school, but in a lot of cases they spend very little time actually on the floor coaching the athlete. They spend most of their time like in football meetings with the head coach and the other football guys, meeting with athletic directors, vendors, sponsors, like they're outward facing. And those guys will make six, seven, 800, $1 million a year. And their first assistant, so this is like the number two, he'll make like 110,
Hmm.
or somewhere in that area. And the spread is not even close to 50% of the head guy's salary. So
Wow.
somewhere in the ballpark of 100 to $400,000, and that would be like top for the assistant. So strength and conditioning, it's tough. It's not really like a lot of the paycheck is the logo, right? So if you want to be in the team and you want to have the logo on your chest, that's a lot of what your pay is.
Gotcha.
Um, and so in other sports, especially if you work in the space and you're working at a university, not with football, you work a lot of hours for no money. And that landscape can be very challenging, especially if you don't just love being with the kids and coaching and being in that environment. But for me, like those kind of things do it for me, right? Like I love being with the guys and working with athletes, and the challenge that is on a day-to-day basis is kind of my jam. So over time, that just kind of worked out as a career field for me, and that was kind of the evolution of it. I in strength and conditioning, a lot of what we do comes from like Russians, from the Soviet way of training athletes. It's not a well-known fact, but I feel like in this space, in the strength and conditioning space, guys kind of know this, that the Russians had this system and this edge for training athletes, and we pulled a lot of their theories out of what we could figure out from rumors and books. Guys like Louis Simmons are in the space. Michael Yesis was a guy who was in this space who would kind of pull these things out of their system and put them into English. And I'm a Mormon, so I did a mission in Ukraine, and so I speak Russian, which is also an edge, right? So
Yeah.
I can read the books and read the articles and listen to the videos, and I don't have to rely on like a secondhand source.
Huh.
So that's kind
That's
of
crazy.
that was an interesting edge too, right? Like getting into the field as a guy who really didn't play sports, just in high school, no college experience. Um, I had that going for me, and a lot of what I learned using the Russian, I still use now, like in my day-to-day job. I pulled stuff out of those interactions for a while. For probably 10 years, I was translating books from Russian into English, and the author I work with most, we're working on a book now, but it's kind of slowed down a bit. But a lot of that stuff I still use, right? Like it was good stuff. And so from playing sports in high school to learning that language, I was lucky to have a bunch of great mentors who kind of pushed me in the right direction. Um, Learning how to use technology to make that process of training a little more streamlined, which I think personally is the tech has come so far that it can really help people who are just your standard hunting, fishing, outdoorsman person to kind of like cut the curve, right? The learning curve for how to achieve sort of this physical shape that they want to be able to do what they love at a high level. I think that it's much more reachable now than maybe people realize.
Huh. Yeah. So I've pretty much been hunting my whole life. I'm relatively new to the fitness aspect of things. The last couple of years I really kind of gotten into, going to the gym regularly, really paying attention to what I eat. We really try to eat clean, change our whole lifestyle and stuff. And I didn't know where to go. I didn't, I really spent a whole lot of time in the gym at a younger age. It was more just working and working outside, construction, bucking hay, whatever it was. It kept me in pretty decent shape. But getting older, two kids, started to get a dad bod. So, started to get some lower back pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided that, I was tired of it. And I mean, the first thing I did is I got that Mountain Tough app.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that was kind of like, I'm just going to try this and see what it does. And then that was kind of like my intro into learning fitness.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about like the technology aspect, is that kind of the stuff you're talking about? Like the basically a personal trainer on your phone thing, or?
Yeah, I think like Mountain Tough is such a great like business model. Like they've done a really good job of taking the hardest part, right? About getting in shape and just like cutting it right down to the wood. Super simple. Just
Yeah.
open your phone and do this workout.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Easy.
was nice.
This is not complicated at all. And I love that. I think it's probably 99% of the work. You just get up and you go do the workout. You don't have to think about it. And I think that's really good. That's one thing for sure with tech that's helped people, I think, to connect the dots. I think the other thing is that once you start to realize that the hunting and fitness industry is just basically CrossFit,
Yeah. Yep.
like their whole business is just CrossFit. Um, you start to kind of ask yourself questions like, well, like I got this problem where I can't do snatches. So like, what do I do? Or I got this thing where I can't squat. So what do I do now? And I think those products start to fall short, right? You're like, well, they don't really have a solution for me. So what am I supposed to do? And what the tech can do for the layman is you just tell yourself, I like being outside and I want to be in shape. So how do I make being outside just a little bit harder every time I go so I can maintain my fitness, improve my fitness? And there's all kinds of products out there that people can get. Like you can get a heart rate monitor on Amazon with a free app, and you just strap that baby on. And when you go hiking, you just look at your heart rate for the session. You
Yeah.
say, last month I did a couple hikes. My heart rate was this. This month I want to go a little harder. Whether it's adding a backpack with weight to try to like improve that resistance in your hike, or going on a steeper hike, or going on a longer hike, right? Because really the principles of fitness is just how much time you spend doing it and how much resistance you have while you're doing it. So it's just a volume and intensity, and you just kind of play back and forth with those things. And I think that you can always do CrossFit, right? Like, because it's a great workout. But the problem is that hunting is a soft skill, and so is fishing and all those other things. And that's why the guys who taught me hunting, like they were not doing CrossFit. They were doing spaghetti and cigarettes. That's what they were doing. And they were killers, right? Like I'm sure a lot of guys have a story. Those guys are straight up killers. And for guys like us, we want to have the fitness for more than just the hunting. Like it's a lifestyle thing. We want to be healthy. But we maybe don't want to do it by being in a box gym. And so the tech, these heart rate monitors, things like Onyx, where you can track where you go. So you could have like I've got this. So there's a couple of different hikes I'll do up near Baker Lake, where it's a very popular trailhead. So I don't have to worry about, getting into trouble with weather or being lost or wondering where I'm going to be at. And you've got the distance on the app. You've got the grade on the app. You could track yourself going on the hike, so you know how long it took. You can put notes and waypoints and all kinds of stuff. And that helps you to have sort of a measuring tool for things like maybe your cardio. If you want to do your cardio with backpacking, um, the heart rate gives you an intensity number. So you could say for my heart rate on the session, it was average 190, it was an absolute crusher, or average 65, I probably should go a little bit harder than that.
Yeah.
And other than that, it's like that app thing where you just got to go, and the apps give you the ability to track it, to say, like, if I'm being honest with myself, last week I did one hike. That's not going to cut it. And if you track every hike or you track every workout, then you kind of are your own coach through these pieces of tech where you have your workouts and they're consistently high number of workouts, and you can look at how hard they are and have that improve as well over time. Because really, in strength and conditioning, that's all the coach is for, is just to hold you accountable. And that's what he does.
Yeah, it makes sense.
More
Yeah.
workouts, harder workouts. And the apps allow you to do that all on your own.
Yeah, I've got so that's I mean, I guess I just kind of had like an epiphany, but yeah, that's how I have a Garmin Instinct watch. And so,
Mm-hmm.
it tracks all that stuff. I got it because actually the compass on my phone was jacked up and Onyx was trying to get me lost. And so when I got out of the woods, I'm like, I got to find a second, like a backup compass. And that watch has a built in compass. So I can kind of cross reference the two and be like, okay, I'm still going in the right direction.
Now,
But
which watch is it? Which Garmin watch?
the Instinct Solar 2, I think is what it's called. It's
So does
actually
that one
charging right.
do? Does that one do the automatic upload to your web account, so you can access all the data on the computer also?
I'm not sure. It automatically syncs to my phone. I know it
Mm-hmm.
has, and I know it has way more stuff than I'm using. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, but it's constantly updating and tracking, my sleep, my heart rate. It's got a body battery thing that kind of lets you know when you're kind of getting close to exhaustion, which is actually strangely accurate. Like from when I look at it, I'm like, dang, this thing's actually knows I'm about ready to pass out.
Yeah.
It tracks like intensity minutes. So like if you are hiking, it tracks like how long your heart rate was elevated, and a ton of other stuff that I haven't even messed with. It's more of like a tactical watch. So it's got stuff for military guys that I'll never use, but it had the compass and the fitness stuff, so that's kind of the way I went. But
Feature
it's
rich.
definitely, yeah, it's a useful tool for sure.
I love the watches for a lot of reasons, but I love them because it's like everything in one place.
Yeah,
Like if you don't want to wear the chest strap, you pay a little extra money and you get the watch. The watch gets all of that and it's in one spot. And I think I was having a conversation with one of my buddies that I hunt with. He's got some bird dogs, so we'll go out for pheasants, and we did an elk hunt this year. But the problem a lot of times is that the fitness means, like, whether it's barbells or kettlebells or bench press, like those things aren't hunting, right? And they may help, and they will help in some respects, but the thing you really want to know is how far can I go and how fast can I get there? And that the watches are kick ass for that because it tells you exactly that.
yeah, yep,
And the way your body's built, you hit a certain pace, like hiking or running or whatever, that's sustainable. And once you go over that pace, you're kind of on the clock, so to speak. You're not going to be able to go forever at that speed. You're going to have to slow down or become exhausted. And the faster you can go below that sort of like red line, the more fit you are.
yeah,
And
yep,
for hunting and for fishing or whatever, if you can hike 15, 18-minute miles with a heavy backpack for like 8 miles, you're flying
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's
you'll never
crazy.
be tired and you're going to crush it. And so that can be, a really good measure for how your workouts are progressing towards being fit for hunting. A heavy pack, realistically heavy pack, and your mile pace. So that would help, it would be a great predictor for your fitness, your readiness to hunt. And just to kind of be realistic with yourself, you get all that number, all that data on those watches. And that's not a technology that's been around for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how accurate the calorie burning part of it is. I've heard a bunch of them are pretty inaccurate. So I mean, I kind of pay attention to that, but I really monitor what I eat more anyways. Um, and I nerd out and count calories when I'm packing my pack to go hiking, based on kind of how I felt just feel. It's not really a perfect science to it, but yeah, that instinct's cool because on the home screen it'll have wind direction and mile per hour. So it'll have a countdown till sunset or sunrise. So it's just a quick look down and I can see all that stuff, my heart rate, the time, when the sun's going to go down, the wind speed, stuff like that. And then, it's got like a 25-day battery and it charges in the sun. So, that was
That's
kind of one of
huge.
the turnoffs from some of the watches, like the Apple Watch, where I had to charge it every night. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was annoying, but, uh, yeah, it's been pretty cool. I never was really a watch person until I got that.
Love it.
But yeah, it's got, GPS. So you can literally set a waypoint at your truck when you leave. So if shit hits the fan, your phone dies and your Onyx isn't working, that watch will help you get back to where you started from too. So,
Love it. No, that's perfect.
yeah. So it's funny that you say that because I have a buddy who, he's more into like just heavy lifting. Like I don't think he could actually run a mile. He's a big dude and just likes to lift heavy shit. And he always gave me shit with the mountain tough stuff, calling me a CrossFitter and stuff like that. But
You're like
um,
true.
yeah, hey,
True gets it done.
it's so I actually reached out to another buddy, and he oh, I don't know what you call it. He competes like the bodybuilder competitions, and so
Mm-hmm.
I teamed up with him for like 4 weeks and just followed him around the gym, and he taught me proper technique on a lot of the stuff and stuff I would have never known or even thought of. So that was a huge thing to help move me along. And like sometimes you get to the gym and it's just when you're learning, I'm like, well, I don't even know what to do. Um,
Yeah.
so that was
Yes.
huge.
Yeah. It's gyms these days are a very intimidating place, especially if you're not like into working out. Like the type of equipment and the sheer number of machines.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to be here. Get me the hell out of this
Yeah.
place.
Yep.
And they're in a lot of cases they're built for bodybuilders, right? Like your homie probably used a bunch of these machines that you never touched before. And in a lot of cases, maybe you don't use them at all anymore, anyways. But they're made for like a very specific position, to target like a very specific part of one muscle group, which is fine. The hard part for someone who wants to hunt fish is like you don't have 3 hours to lift weights,
Yeah.
and you kind of want to get a cardio and the lifting in one. And so it can be tough. And I think I work with private clients one-on-one from time to time. And the thing that I try to drive home the most is that very simple exercises can get you a lot of mileage, right? And the great thing about like the watch and, tracking things like heart rate is that you can replicate what you do on the mountain in the gym with those
Yeah.
devices. Say a treadmill, put that thing on an incline, like bring a backpack, or
Yep.
whatever, and just replicate it, increase the speed, decrease the incline, vice versa. I think the message I try to deliver to clients of mine who are in the outdoor space is that lifting should be directed at range of motion first. So don't stress too much about heavy weights or type of exercise. Do exercises that you can get into really deep ranges of motion. So if you can lunge, but you don't want to use a barbell, use a dumbbell or a kettlebell or two. But try to have those muscles of your knee and hip really stretch, get into the deepest position that you can comfortably get into, and then do that for reps, and then increase the weight there. If you're training upper body, do a pull up that's like full range of motion pull up. If you're going to do pressing, do bench press all the way to your chest, or push up all the way to the floor, right? Because the stretch that you get in the muscle is also building flexibility. It's building stability in the joint, shoulder joint, hip joint, knee joint. For a long time when I was in college, while I was coming up in coaching, I was a competitive power lifter, and I lifted in single ply gear, but a lot of the guys that I trained with were like Louis Simmons, Westside Barbell, multiply, tons of steroids, like awesome heavy lifting world record holder guys. And I'm still great friends with these guys, and they're absolute fucking monsters. One guy bench pressed 840 at a body weight of 220.
Holy fuck.
Like this guy holds world records, right? Like these guys are units. And my best numbers were nowhere near that, but at one point I was squatting 800 pounds, and those types of exercises are bad for hunting and fishing because they build a specific type of fitness that's not doing outside stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. I try to help people recognize that it's not that it's bad or good. It's not what you want. So range of motion and lifting weights is king. And then, having good technique with that will help you to stay healthy and to build the strength that you need for being outside. And ultimately, bodybuilders will teach you this too, that bigger muscles are built in fuller range of motion exercise. And they'll do partials sometimes, but then in between the partials, they'll stretch. Right?
Yeah.
Like if a guy's doing, so this sounds familiar.
Yeah, he that guy I was telling you about, he really stressed on every like range of like roll, like start with your shoulders and like get every single inch of it out, and which was huge because one of the things he had me do was as a warm-up was just like hang from a bar and just lift myself with just my shoulders. And I was like, this is kind of a weird thing. And dude, like eventually I wasn't even having to jump up to grab the bar. I could just reach up, and I had so much more range of motion in my shoulder that I could just grab it and pull myself up. Like I was like, oh shit, like that made a huge difference. So yeah, that's like every time I do anything, I really focus on just making the whole range of motion go through. And like you're saying, it's been huge.
Yeah, and it's so good. Like you think about things that happen when you're outside, hiking, hunting, fishing. If you stumble and slip and you try to catch
Yeah.
yourself, if you have no strength below 90 degrees at the knee, like you're gonna eat shit. You're gonna like roll an ankle, twist your knee. And these aren't things that result in a six pack, right? These are things that
Yeah.
result in you doing what you love.
Yep.
And those abilities, those fitness qualities that come from that range of motion, training the full range of motion. Even something as simple as like putting on a heavy pack. Like if you can't get here, you're just like a wounded
Yeah.
turtle. Like you can't get that thing on.
Yep, exactly. Yeah,
And I
I've
think, it's a quality of life thing.
big time. Yeah, I was doing like a weighted pack and just filling it with plates, and actually was I felt like it was just a different feel, so I actually weighed out sandbags, like 10,
Mhm.
15, 20 pound sandbags to put in my pack to have like that dead hanging weight in the pack like you're packing out an elk, and would do the stair or the stair machine or the treadmills, And it was funny this last spring in Idaho. I had the ground give way out from underneath me, and this is kind of an example where this kind of aha moment. And I do like I'll get like the box out and kind of thrust myself up, and then slowly lower myself back down with like a weighted pack on the box, each leg, and it was
Mhm.
like bam, ground gave out, caught myself, and just picked myself up and kept hiking. I was like, there it was. That's what all that was for. I didn't fall down
Yeah.
this mountain. Yeah.
No, I love it. Yeah. And so in strength and conditioning, there's a term for that, which is there's specific training and there's general training, right? And like lunges at deep ranges of motion, that's highly specific to hunting.
Yeah.
Or like holds, like doing a pull up and holding it like this, highly specific to hunting.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
for
And
sure.
things that are way more general would be like snatches or barbell squatting or really heavy weights. It's just not hunting. And for a lot of people, like it's just not needed. Like you get way more juice for the squeeze doing more specific things like the lunges, like you're talking about the eccentric where you're slowly lowering yourself down. Um, yeah, and so it's like I say with a program like Mountain Tough, it's not a bad thing. I just think you have to recognize everybody learns to sort of recognize nuance, and you
Yeah.
start to see that, hey, like this thing is better for me. Like this is the thing that's going to get me going better than maybe like the burpees.
Yeah.
So that's killer. It's a great like real world example of that.
Yeah. I feel like I've kind of taken, that first year subscription of the Mountain Tough, and then the workouts I did with the dude who was bodybuilding, and I've kind of just melted the two together to what I feel like was making a difference in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not really into it to look cool with my shirt off, which would be cool, but I want to be able to go in farther and harder than anybody else. And so um I got a couple, like, let's see here. So equipment wise, uh, we talked about kind of some four main things that we wanted to hit on.
Mm-hmm.
What about, let's say a guy doesn't have a whole lot of stuff, or maybe he can't make it to the gym. What's some like limited equipment or something somebody can do at their house, or besides like
Yes.
like a weighted pack or something?
Yeah. So my wife's gonna hear me say this, and she's just gonna laugh because I work in a gym, right? So we have everything you could ever want in terms of working out. But the thing I'd stress with my clients is that you need some type of an implement to do everything with, which for me is a kettlebell. And I really don't think that a box gym for the money, you can't beat it, right? Like
Yeah.
Planet Fitness is $10 a month. Like that's as cheap as it gets.
Yeah.
So if you can, you're way better off getting that membership and then just like, running that thing into the ground. Like just get there and use it hard. But if it's not possible at all, the next best thing is having a space at home where you have room. So, really just don't try to work out like in your bedroom because there's too much shit everywhere and you can't move around. Like real estate is like numero uno. That's what I tell my clients is, do you have a living room? You can push the coffee table out of the way or whatever. You need space where you can like lay down or stand up. So that's the first thing. Garage, living room, a space where the climate is controlled because we all know this. Wintertime, it's January, it's cold as balls. You're not going to lay down on that garage floor, man. You're not doing it. No
Yeah.
chance. Now, I don't care how hardcore you are, you're not laying down on that garage floor. January, 5 a.m. So just like you're better off just being real with yourself, being like, I need a space where I can train. So do that first. Right? And if someone's listening to this and they're thinking gym's not an option, make a space in your house where you can train, that you will train. And then from there, I tell my clients start with what you're doing now because you can't get to some imaginary state of fitness by just doing a bunch of training today or tomorrow or for 4 weeks. I tell my pro athletes that I work with that's like hurricane training. You just scorch the earth with your like super motivated 3 weeks of working out. And then in a month or 2 months, it's all looking exactly the same like it did before. Nothing changed. Like what we want to do is we want to do like Grand Canyon training where it's just a little bit, it's just a trickle, but that trickle is always there. And then after a year, 2 years, 5 years, there's permanent changes that will never, return to the former state. And you have this new level of fitness that you will have forever. And so having some space where you can move and then having a schedule where you can maintain more than you're doing today. So that's the key. And you have to be honest with yourself. Like, how many days a week do I work out? Like, really work out? Well, 0.
Yeah.
That's your starting point, right? Or maybe it's more. Maybe it's 3. You say, I work out 3 days a week. So now I need to have those workouts be harder, right? Or I need to go 5 days a week. And to start there, you may need no equipment. You may just need to do like a bike ride and some body weight stuff. And if you're not doing any weightlifting at all, don't buy equipment. Just do, 100 reps of squats, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups 3 days a week. And now you're doing more than you were doing. That's not going to work forever, right? Eventually, you're going to have to get some weights. But I think a lot of times people just overcomplicate it, Like it doesn't have to be this really elaborate, fancy training program. It just needs to be more than you were doing yesterday for a while.
Yeah.
And then from there, if you need weights, my recommendation is get a pull-up bar, something strong that's tall, so that you can be fully extended, legs straight, and do pull-ups. Like my garage isn't tall enough for me to do that. So I went to Home Depot and bought 4x4s and a piece of treated 2x10. And I just like screwed that bitch up there so I can hang from it. Right? I just drill 2 holes in it and I use pegs. So that's what I have in my backyard, and that's where I do my pull-ups. And it works great. Like that's all you need is somewhere to do the pull-ups. And then from there, get a kettlebell. The reason I like kettlebells is that you really can't swing a dumbbell. Like if you try to swing it, it's too wide. And the kettlebell allows you to do things for your hips that you can't do with a dumbbell. It allows you greater freedom to train your upper body than you can get with the dumbbell. And weights in the range of like 10 to 20 to 40 pounds. If you had those 3, you'd be doing everything. You can do all of the things at home with those weights. And then if you need to do heavier leg stuff, like you're talking about, fill some garbage bags with gravel and tape those things up and throw them in a backpack.
Yeah.
And now you can do your heavy leg stuff. But I think a lot of times people just they see what maybe goes on social media or on these apps like Mountain Tough, and they're like, man, I gotta get like this box gym subscription. I gotta get my 6-pack first. I can work out my shirt off. Like I gotta get these booty shorts.
Yeah.
I gotta have all these supplements. You just don't need that stuff. You need space, and you need to commit to do more now than you were doing yesterday, and your fitness will immediately start to improve. A fun fact, we may have time to get into this with supplements, but most pro athletes don't take supplements at all. And obviously with the Kraken, like we offer many of them, many supplements, but a lot of guys don't take them, and they get all of the vitamins and nutrition they need from real food. Because these guys have, they have the money that they can afford to buy the best food. They can afford for someone else to cook it for them. And so their schedule and their resource allows for all of those needs to be met in the kitchen. And it's honestly, it's not a necessity to have fancy supplements, a shaker cup, whatever it is. Liquid meals maybe make it easier, right? If you have a tight schedule, but it's definitely not necessary. All you need in terms of equipment to achieve that higher level of fitness, to be able to do a harder hunt with confidence and go further without thinking that you might, strand yourself, become a liability, is just the space to train and then committing the time to doing more than you were doing yesterday.
Yeah, that was so kind of the equipment, the sup like I noticed when I first started doing it, I was like, I need these supplements, and I've really toned down what I have. I got some vitamins, I got some protein powder in case I need a quick meal or something like that. And then like a pre-workout. Uh
Mm-hmm.
just a some sort of a stimulant. What's not only equipment but supplements, like you were saying, like on social media and the Mountain Tough stuff. What's some of the biggest like myths and like just BS that people are buying into that you've seen?
Yeah. Oh man. Number one, I would say the number one gripe I have is that everybody who has a personal trainer to a T, they have a picture in their mind of some guy or girl that they've seen on the internet, and they're like, I want to be that guy. Every time, they'll come to me and they'll be like, yeah, I just, I want to get fitter. And I'm like, okay, well, who is it? Just give me the name. Like, who is it that you
Yeah.
want to look like? Uh, and that's the problem, is that nobody wants to see my fat ass rolling around on Instagram for sure. It doesn't sell a thing. They need to see somebody with a six pack. That's what sells. And I'm not mad about that. But my clients, I square with them on this. That body had a cost. So this is my number one gripe on social media. You can't have what someone else has if you're not willing to pay the price they paid.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that person, no matter what they're saying on the internet, they're not holding down a 9 to 5. They're not taking care of kids. They're not killing stuff in the woods. Like, they may say they are, but they're not, because there's an expense to maintaining that physique. And I tell my clients, we can get you there, no problem. They're not a robot. It's easily attainable, but you have to be willing to pay the price.
Yeah.
And so, go into a fitness program, and when you see people on the internet, recognize like there was a cost there. And for me, it's like, I'm not giving up chips and salsa. I'm not giving up popcorn. I'm not doing it. Like, that's too
Yeah.
expensive for me. And so that's number one. And then number two, I think, is that workouts have to be really, really hard to be effective. And that's just not the case. Like, if you're throwing up every time you train, like, that's pretty fucked up. But that's also not helping your fitness.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you really need to like lean into the fact that consistent training over time is what's going to kill your goals, or like help you achieve them. I mean, trying to train yourself into oblivion every single day, like train yourself blind, that's going to stop you short of your goals, because it's not sustainable. And so, again, to my point, like, no one wants to see some guy like with a light sweat having a conversation with his buddy on a treadmill. That doesn't sell on the internet. Like, they want to see a jacked guy like on the verge of throwing up, like heavy weights. That's what sells, which is fine. But that's not what pays the bills in terms of getting fitter. High intensity workouts have their place, but it's definitely not a daily thing, and it's far from the rule. So go into a fitness program and be honest with yourself about what you're willing to give for what you want. And then also, like, training every day, even if it's easy, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, that will get you to where you want to be. Like, that will get you the fitness and the ability to do those hard hunts, the 5 day, 8 day, 10 day hunts. And you don't need to be like training yourself sick, right? A 20-minute workout, that's going to be highly effective, especially if you're not doing any workouts now, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's worth noting. My experience in pro sports, 30 minutes a day, 4 or 5 days a week, that gets you a really high level of fitness.
Hmm.
And doing 90, 2 hours, or like, a 60-minute crusher every day, it's just not necessary. Obviously, if you can sustain it, you'll get a high level of fitness. But puke bucket workouts for 4 weeks gets you nowhere. Consistent, like, easier workouts for 2 years, that gets you way further.
Yeah, it's
So,
so it's almost more like it's kind of like those diets, right? We're gonna go on this 30-day diet, and that's like your 4-week puke workout, but it's not sustainable. You're not changing anything long term. Um, so finding something that you can continue to do. That's kind of why like I started working out at home, and then it got to the point where like I just had to go to the gym, and it was like
mhm.
even if it was for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it was, I wanted to go there because that was where I knew I was going to get what I needed to do done. I wasn't going to do it here with the kids and whatever other shit I had going on.
Mhm.
Um, so that was kind of one of the things too, was lifestyle that we had talked about a little bit, and changing your whole lifestyle to be that way forever, not just for 30 days or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah. Like, you know what, Andy, man, like it's a great point you make about eventually needing the gym. You didn't need it at first.
Yeah.
Like for you, it was like, I'm doing this for me. I want to have like the confidence and fitness to do these longer hunts, to have a healthier life. I'm just going to start by doing it at home, and that got it done for a while.
Yep.
And that was like a very valuable first step. And probably the most important thing you did was to cut a chunk of your life out and say, this is for me now. Like I'm doing this for myself. And people, when they listen to this podcast, that's what they should hear. Like that's the most important thing, is to say that this is an investment for me. Like when I get my paycheck and I pay myself in my savings account, and I get up and I've got this many hours of the day, I'm paying myself first. So if people can do that, then what follows will be important, but not nearly as important as that. And eventually, like you say, it will lead you into a gym. But the lifestyle thing is the most important piece. Like decide for yourself that you want to have, a life where you're fit enough to do whatever you want to do, whether it's a big hunt or a small hunt or hanging out with your kids or even just being able to buy size large t-shirts that fit.
Yeah.
you know like one of my other buddies that I hunt with has had a ton of health problems. He owns a construction business, and that's it's hard lifestyle to fit working out. It's a pretty physically demanding career field, crushes your time. But we've been talking about this a lot, and a lot of the fitness element behind training is just having a body that supports the life you want to live. So it's not about six packs. It's not about summer bodies. It's about just living. I just want to live my life,
Yeah,
and
that's
commitment is the first piece.
yeah, that's been a huge factor as well, is changing my whole lifestyle for the better, with being able to run around with the kids. It was kind of, so I haven't really been to the gym pretty much all summer. I ruptured my bicep back in this early spring, so I'm still in physical therapy for that, doing pretty lightweight stuff. It's been driving me bananas, but what's funny is that day that I did that, we were camping and we were playing cornhole, group of buddies, and like every time somebody would bend over to pick up a bean bag or a cornhole board bag, they'd grunt and barely be able to reach down there and grab it and stand back up. I'm like, yeah, I don't have to do that anymore. I've put in some work, and I can bend over without sounding like I'm 75 years old, and
Love that.
chase the kids around. And it's just it's been awesome. And the big part was I fucking sat down and was like, this time is my time. I'm going to the gym at this time every day, and this is how this is going to go. And I really had to commit, and I'm sure it drove the wife nuts, but
Yeah, she's thanking you now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's a good point to make. And the other thing is that the older you get, the more valuable that investment becomes,
absolutely. Yeah.
because your health falls off at an exponential rate. It's a compounding loss. So 30 years, that 10 years to 40, you lose out triple 40 to 50, and then 10 times 50 to 60. if people are listening and want to hear about how that works, they should read a book called Outlive by Peter Attia. Came out this spring or summer. One of the best books I've ever read. This guy's an absolute legend. But he talks about in there how fast your fitness will destroy your quality of life and how fast having higher fitness will improve it. And it's all about the time you spend training and way less about the, intensity or how fancy the workouts are for sure.
Yeah, it's I've got so actually one of the things I wanted to ask, you mentioned your buddy does construction. I've always kind of wondered, like since I've been doing this, there's been times that I'm out late, whatever, coming home, uh, and or maybe I'm traveling to a hunt, and for those guys out there that got to work construction, is there a healthy option for a dude at a gas station? You know what I mean? Like I see all these
Yeah,
guys,
gas station meals.
yeah,
Love it.
they're always eating
Love
these
it.
burritos and corn dogs, and I'm like, man, I gotta grab a pepperoni stick because I don't know what else to eat in
Mhm.
that place.
Yeah, gas station meals so good. Yeah, I eat a lot of gas station meals. So my go-to gas station meal is one bars. So one brand protein bars. They have a
Yep.
maple donut flavor one. I get two of those, and then Blue Diamond has like a shit ton of different almond flavors. So I'll get coconut and dill pickle, and then the drink is always tons of caffeine and no calories. So 240 Monster, or if there's a Black Rifle 300, I'll get one of those. And the reason why is that the one bar has a little bit of carbs in it, but it's mostly protein. And a meal should be around 40 grams of protein. And then the almonds, there's a lot of calories in them, but the calories are fat calories. They're not like garbage calories. And so when you eat those fat calories, that sticks with you a little bit longer, right? And it tastes fantastic. So
Yeah.
if you don't like almonds and you don't like eating nuts, like that's your options are much more limited. But reach for nuts because they have a lot of calories. Try to reach for nuts that aren't like loaded with sugar. So the honeyed or the candied ones, try to steer clear of those because they're gonna make you tired, first of all, because all that sugar causes fatigue. And second of all, it's just gonna crush your appetite. Like you'll eat them, and then it's gonna be hard to get your appetite back up when it's time to eat a real meal. Because it's like candy. And then the protein bars, that's a clean source of energy that helps you to not have this big spike in insulin that builds body fat, right? So having
Gotcha.
the protein and the fat gives you sustained energy without making you feel like shit. And then the reason I drink the Monster, the Rockstar, is that those calories and the heavier food will sit in your stomach, and it causes this like feeling of fullness and like I'm ready for a nap. And so that
Yeah.
drink helps you to stay up even with that meal in you. And I tell my clients like avoid any drinks with sugar in them because I mean they're bad for your health, but it makes it really hard for you to stay awake because all that sugar drives your energy up and then you crash. So growing up, my dad owned a construction business and the foreman used to just crush Mountain Dews. And we're talking
Oh.
about this and he stopped drinking. He actually switched to Diet Mountain Dew and he lost 25 pounds.
Oh wow.
That's the only thing he changed is he just stopped drinking, fully leaded soda. So it's a lot of calories. It's really bad for your health. But gas station go to a couple protein bars that are zero sugar or low sugar, some almonds, and then some clean caffeine. And that, honestly, it's not a bad meal anytime. But for gas station meals, it's about as clean as you can do.
Yeah, I'm a I'm a C4 and a wasabi almond kind of guy.
Yeah,
It was
money.
yeah, but
Wasabi
yeah,
ones are awesome.
Yeah, the C4s, man. I'm freaking addicted to the Starburst flavored ones. But
Yeah, and that's the
um,
other thing. Like, there's so many good flavors. You can't go
yeah,
wrong.
yep. Freaking gonna go broke buying those things at gas stations though. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I had. I mean, I answered all the stuff I wanted. I don't want to keep you too late tonight. Let's see. Anything else you want to get you want to get out there?
No, I think the thing that I love about the outdoor community is that people just want to have a good time,
Yeah.
like in the outdoors, and not having enough fitness to like have a good time. Like, that should never be the reason why you have to shut it down, right? And it doesn't have to be complicated. Like that's the message I try to get out there. So like fitness for living your life outside should be super simple. It's just about, committing to taking care of those things each day. So just make the commitment and keep it simple and then don't miss, right? Like consistently improve whatever you're doing, making it harder, making it longer. The other thing I would recommend is that make sure that whatever your situation is, that you're involving a doctor in how you do those programs. Like get your blood panel done, like have a blood draw, go over it with your doctor and listen to what he has to say, right? Like I get it. A lot of doctors full of shit, but a
Yeah.
blood panel is basic stuff. So get your blood work done. Don't be an idiot. Follow your doctor's advice on what is in that blood panel. And if you can afford it, if your insurance is good, get a full hormone panel done. If there's men who are listening to this who are 40, 50, 60 years old, like go and get your testosterone levels checked. And if they're low, like get on something to fix that because you'll never out train it. Like if that's low, you got to get it up somehow.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge. Doctors can be a big resource. You only need to get it done once a year, especially if you're training. So, make the commitment, get a doctor involved. And then, if you want to do, I know there's guys who want to do this, but they'll like want to do an Alaska sheep hunt or they want to do, like some type of brown bear hunt, or maybe they just want to do an archery elk hunt in Idaho, in the Frank Church. But they're
Yeah.
like, I can't, there's no way I'll ever make it. Like I'll die
That'll
out there.
test you. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. You can get there and it doesn't have to be hard. Just, make the commitment and pay yourself that time. And in a year, 2 years, you'll be ready to rip.
Yeah, that's funny you said that. It was actually the Frank Church. I got a tag in there, and that was kind of another thing that kicked it off. Was like I got to, I was watching videos. I'm like, dude, there ain't no way I'm gonna make it in there if I don't do something this year. So that's spent the whole
Yeah.
year training for
No,
that. Yeah, yeah.
100%. You saw that train coming down the tracks from a long ways away.
Yeah. It only takes a couple videos and you're like, God damn, look at those hills. Like,
Yeah. Cliffs.
yeah. Yeah, right on, man. This was awesome. I keep getting deeper into the fitness. I love it. You know, uh it's just I'm trying to, I'm getting my wife into it. Making my kids do push-ups in the kitchen, you know.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
So
The lifestyle.
yeah. And that's pretty awesome. I guess I don't know. I guess I didn't even realize that you were working with the Kraken. That's cool as hell.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good job. Pro hockey guys are awesome. Blue collar guys. A lot of them hunt and fish, so they're kind of my type of crowd.
Yeah.
Obviously, part of their job is to beat the shit out of each other, so that filters out some kind of guys.
Yeah.
But hockey's awesome.
Yeah. I'm hoping to get over and try to get to one of I've always so I lived in Arlington, Marysville, over kind of where you're at, and would always go to
Nice.
the Silver Tips games and
Mhm.
Thunderbird games back in the day. I've never been to a professional hockey game though, so I'll have to get over there and do
Yeah,
that.
we got to get you out. It's an experience for sure.
Yeah, it's like the best sport to watch live, I think. I mean, I've been to football, baseball, that shit, and hockey's just a whole nother level of energy in the place.
Yeah, it's true. My dad the same. Diehard University of Utah fan, season ticket holder, and then he's come up to a couple games here, and he's just like hooked. hooked on hockey, nonstop action. So it's a different
Yeah.
beast for sure.
Yeah. Right on, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and I hope we get to chat soon.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Have a good night.